Stearns County Board of Commissioners meeting to order. First thing we'll do is roll call. Randy?
Commissioner Clark.
Hi, I'm here. Sorry.
Commissioner Persky.
Here.
Commissioner Notch.
Here.
Commissioner Bertram.
Here.
All present.
I think this is, the volume's a little bit echoey.
I think I have my gym voice on, yeah.
Let's, please let's all stand for a moment of silence and the Pledge of Allegiance. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. So we have the agenda. Is there any changes to the agenda? Anybody? Seeing none, we'll
Move approval of the agenda.
move approval of the agenda.
Second.
Commissioner Clark, Commissioner Persky seconds. Any discussion? If not, all those in favor say aye.
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 Aye, opposed, same sign. Agenda approved. The consent agenda is 12 items. Anything that needs to be added or pulled? Members?
I'd like to pull E6.
Okay. So, anything else?
If not, I'll move items 1 through 12 on the E consent agenda,
Okay,
with the exception of 6.
okay, motion's been made.
Second.
Commissioner Notch seconds. Any discussion? If not, all those in favor say aye.
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 Opposed, same sign. Motion. So why don't we address item E6 on the consent agenda?
Okay, I just pulled that. I didn't know that Mr. Koner was actually going to be speaking about that public hearing that we had. If you were looking at your packet and what happened out there at the Shady's property as far as outdoor music is concerned, you know, we'd had one public hearing, and the neighbors were quite concerned. They voiced their opinion about that. Likewise, the township voiced their opinion, concerns about the music. We sent it back to the township and allowed them to make some adjustments, and they did that. Came back, we had another public hearing with the township and the public giving input, and actually came up with some compromises where the music wasn't going to be every weekend till 10 o'clock, that they would only be allowed to have the late music every other weekend. And that was palatable to the neighbors and more so to the township. But I just wanted to say that we really gave them an opportunity to work that out. And that's not been the situation in other instances. So I'm hoping that we can move forward and resolve these issues, because repeatedly you have people coming in about the Mary Meadows and about the milk and honey issues. So I'm hoping we're going to get some resolve down the road. With that, I'll go ahead and I'll move E6 for passage.
Mr. Chair, maybe you want to wait for a second, but I'd like to have Ms. Benson just come just to address the process issue.
Okay.
Okay, can we get a second to that?
I'll second it.
Okay, Commissioner Persky moves item E6 on the consent agenda. Commissioner Notch seconds it. Discussion, Shelley.
Mr. Chair, members of the board, the Planning Commission looked at all of the items in front of them, asked for the township input. The township went back, had that conversation with Shady's. It was an agreed upon discussion with Shady's. They brought that back. There wasn't much or any actual manipulation or negotiation at the Planning Commission level. That was really done by the township and Shady's to agree to the music at that particular location. Procedurally, because we had it as a tabled item, we then renoticed it, and then it was a public hearing for everyone to participate in. So we, just like the other items, have followed the process consistently throughout what we are doing. So at this point, Shady's agreed, they have their conditions, and I'm not sure if there's anything else we can do for anyone else at this point, because those are approved permits. But Shady's wasn't approved previously, now it is approved. And once you go through this motion, it will be approved. and then that will set the precedent for that particular venue. So if you have questions about it, I'm certainly here and I can ask.
Commissioner Clark.
Yeah, Mr. Chair, I just think it's important because we do follow processes. There are times from here, people do get heated and things are said that might make people think we're not following processes. We are following processes. There are times when others are inserting or keep whatever, and then it changes, but this is our normal process, and I get concerned that there is some kind of de facto policy making that shouldn't be happening there. So I do have concerns about that. I voted for the consent agenda, but I recognize there was one item where we have Planning Commission members who are concerned about how the applicant was treated at it, not by our staff. And so I think at some point, we just have to remember, while there's been heated conversations about a different property, that we do follow the process one, and for anybody watching that has anything to do with Sunny Marion Meadows, that's done. It is done. I mean, we just need to keep moving on, and perhaps in the future there'll be a time to relook at how townships might be approving things or about noise or anything else, but the process is being followed. And I will be supporting this.
Yeah, and I don't know that we should or need to go on this, but being on the Planning Commission for 16 years and a board member now for 2 years, I've never seen something like this before. So you can say you followed any process you want. Obviously, people feel slighted, and things changed, and I saw them change. The standards that were used are different in different places, and again, I only know half of that because I was on the Planning Commission. What Shady's had to do in Cold Spring, and what other venues have not had to do, so it's there. And Shelley and Mike and I are going to talk after this meeting about some things. But so a process, people are fallible, a process is fallible, and how people perceive it. But again, take that all out. We need to listen to what the public's saying. And Mr. Wilson said what he said. I haven't heard that, but people do say things. And of course, I take that as personal, what they say about the county as they do to me, about me personally, because I'm part of the board. So I'm not saying the process wasn't followed, to people's, again, a process is fallible and great. Every once in a while, staff would say on the Planning Commission, well, this is the way it's got to be. And I said, well, if that's true, then why do we have a Planning Commission? If it's black and white, we'd have an ordinance. We don't need it.
So
the Planning Commission is agreeing.
exactly why
Yes.
this was 6-0 at the Planning
Yes.
Commission. So Sunny Marion Meadows shouldn't even have been an
Nope.
additional conversation. It's assumptions being made that shouldn't be made. And our procedure here has always been, if the vote's 3-2, you move on, and you take it at that. Everything, in my opinion, has been done the proper way.
Commissioner, that was Commissioner Notch, by the way. I couldn't call on you fast enough, but the only thing I'll say is, again, not having the public hearing, I think people, again, I'm talking from experience, so on Planning Commission, when you let people talk and you let them give their opinion and you work these things through and you answer those questions, then the people, that's why they weren't excited. That's why people weren't coming to the county board on the issues that came before planning, because we vetted them. And I agree with you that it was 6-0, Commissioner Notch. However, it was an evolving, changing, what the township heard first, and then what the Planning Commission heard, it changed. And again, if it is over, then let's not be,
Right.
let's not beat it to death.
The horse has been dead for a bit.
But we obviously don't all agree that the process was totally followed. So there's a disagreement amongst us, and then now I agree, we need to move forward. But let's use it as a teachable moment, I hope, and let's move forward. If I ask for a public hearing on something that's somewhat controversial, or you do, or the new board member, I would hope that I would respect that board member's, because it's their district. So again, that's part of this process, and no, it doesn't happen often, but we can't be so rigid, in my opinion. We need to be a little flexible and respect each other members, and then the public, even though we may not agree with the public, we need to give them that forum to talk, in my opinion. That's all I'm going to say. Commissioner Notch.
Well, I'm going back to what you told me a few years back when you made the comment that if the planning commission votes unanimously and the county board decides to do something different, why do you have us as a planning commission? I still remember you saying that on an issue a number of years ago.
And you did that because, Commissioner Notch, I asked that because you reversed what we recommended. It was a solar site. And so we recommended not to approve it, and the board approved it. So you did exactly what you're saying we shouldn't do. And again, you were the
But
board.
was that 6-0?
I
No,
don't
it
remember
was
that.
not. It was not.
So,
Well, if
was
you remember
3-4.
that, God
Yeah.
bless you, because I can't remember what I had for breakfast. Oh, no, I did remember what I had for breakfast, but I can't remember what the vote was. But the point was, the majority voted not to approve it. And again, I get that. So
but
every
if it's a
case,
split vote, it's one thing. If it's unanimous,
That's another.
we've always, okay, they vetted it because you got staff vetting it, you got planning commission vetting it. By the time it comes to us, it should be very well vetted, and we shouldn't be having this
and
conversation.
normally that's the case, Commissioner
And
Clark,
making us,
Commissioner Notch, go ahead, no,
well,
finish.
and I was gonna say, and some of this is making assumptions of what potentially could happen. And I don't think that's appropriate. I really don't.
And again, that's the beauty of all of us. That's your opinion.
Right.
And so that, Commissioner Clark.
Yeah, and Commissioner Lensmeyer, one of the things he was good about was you don't get two bites at the apple. And with all due respect, we have a non-voting member of the Planning Commission who is getting many bites at many apples. And we've got some challenges right now, and we will figure it out. And now I'm saying it as Commissioner Bertram as opposed to Mr. Chair. I mean, Commissioner Bertram, you're having a meeting, I'm having a meeting. I think we're all having meetings. Hopefully we'll get to the point that we can figure some of this out. I am very concerned about, because of potential worries about something, including 500, 600, 700 people, concerts that can't possibly happen at a tiny little place. And at the same point saying, oh, it's okay if the neighbors don't mind if it's a small thing. People need to have a better idea about what to expect. And some of us, including most of us up here, do process out loud. So if everybody understands that, that's one thing. But a lot of times when people are coming before the Planning Commission, they're just trying to figure it out, and they shouldn't have to figure everything out before they come out. And perhaps those are some of the things we'll address at a different time, and maybe we need a work session. But right now, people are getting pushed into making decisions about their properties that they shouldn't have to, and I'm concerned about that.
And the bite of the apple, Commissioner Clark, I agree with you. But again, by precedent, this board, there was a former chair who was the chair of the Planning Commission.
That might have been a
Commissioner
long
Arnold
time ago. She's been
chaired-
gone for 20 years,
Well,
over 20 years. So that was a long
But
time ago.
I'm always told precedent.
No, we haven't-
And that's certainly, I don't think that was right. But in other counties, county board members will be the chair of the planning, and I don't think that's right. I think, and that's why the member is non-voting, so they
And
may
it's-
get a chance to participate, but they don't vote. And certainly the whole point of that is so that Commissioner Persky or whomever can bring back the discussion to the board to let us know.
And
what happened.
Mr. Chair, that's not really what's happening. That's not just bringing back information. And there are boards that have nobody there. This is a citizen board, just like our Board of Adjustment is. This isn't one of our just regular advisory boards. We have a mix of citizens and staff, et cetera. And it's really important that they get to do their work, not any of us hoping. And I do share some of the concerns that get brought up, but we have some legal problems too, because it looks like we're just like policies happening on its own, and that can't be. So I think we got to figure out how to work on that so that people know what to expect, that no one of us is basically pushing people into decisions that they weren't coming to do, because that's not the right place to do it. It would be here, not there.
And again, that's your opinion, and I have my opinion. Steve expressed his opinion. Joe's going nuts, so he wants to express his opinion, and then let's wrap this up. But we all have our ways of getting to decisions that we want to be made that may be questioned by others, but that's just part of the process. So Commissioner Persky, and then I hope we can wrap this up.
Yeah, I've been waiting. We've heard a good amount of dialogue. However, I think we're missing one of the main key points, and that is due process. Whenever a commissioner in the past has asked for a public hearing, they were granted the public hearing. Whenever, Commissioner Clark, you shake your head. Can you cite a time when we didn't do that?
We
Commissioner Clark?
actually haven't on 6-0. We haven't,
No,
on
no,
the
but-
unanimous votes, we have not. I can't think of a time since I've been on here that we have done that.
Okay. Well,
And if we really want to dig into that, and I don't.
Let me
at
just-
this
I'll
point,
just-
but
I'll
I could
continue.
ask staff to say, look at how many times the commissioner asked for a public hearing on an item in their district or any district.
Right, it's
And
not
did they
about
get
any
it?
district, anyone's district. It's about we are each here, we are each elected, so any commissioner.
right.
And again, Commissioner Clark, that's your opinion, but.
Well, we
that-
are
that's-
elected.
And then
we
again,
come
we had
together.
the township that requested to have the public hearing. And the reason that they asked to have the public hearing was due process. When we had that application come in, it was for a flower shop. And she was going to have a flower shop and she was going to enhance it and have people come out and cut flowers. After that public hearing closed, there became a conversation about music. There was no music on the application. And then the music was granted from 6 a.m. till 10 p.m. Okay? Now, shouldn't those neighbors have at least known that there's a potential to have music on that property every weekend, every night during the summer? Shouldn't they have been able at least to voice their opinion about having that in their neighborhood? I think they should have, because a flower shop is different from an entertainment venue that has concerts every weekend. So then the township asked the same thing. Can we have a discussion on this? Okay? And that's all they wanted to do. I was in total support of that flower shop. I wanted it to move forward. If you watch the video, I asked her several times, can we bring it back? Can we bring it back? She says, no, we got to get it done tonight. And so the pressure was put on the Planning Commission, and they were led by the staff to grant all these things because we had other issues there that we were going to do yet for the next couple hours. And so here's the point. When is it that we're going to recognize that this outdoor music is an issue? I don't think any one of us in this chamber here right now would like to have that happening every weekend during the summer on their property, that they have to listen to that. Now, Shady's, again, they worked out a little compromise. They had some discussion. But when it came to Sunny Mary Meadows, there was never any discussion. They never had a chance to voice their opinion about the music, nor did the township. She never asked about the music to the township. She only asked for an entrance off the property onto hers from the township road. And we could have resolved this easily by having a public hearing, and then we could have granted her the music. But they never had a chance to have due process. And there's a considerable difference between a flower shop and a concert venue that happens every weekend in your neighborhood.
So it's your
Commissioner-
planning.
But Commissioner Persky, that's also making an assumption. Besides that, I listened to that, and the Planning Commission members asked her a lot of questions. So it wasn't like it was like, oh, you want this? Oh, okay, we'll approve it. In my opinion, there was a long discussion about what, did you think of what time you want the music and stuff like that? I mean, there was a lot of back and forth with the Planning Commission. And I'm just going to add this, which I think was very inappropriate at the last Planning Commission. I listened when Mr. Lutgen talked about the bar in St. Nicholas, and you said, basically made the comment like, well, no, we don't, our policy, to me, you inserted yourself in a spot where you shouldn't have.
Okay.
Because in my opinion, we're each elected, we each have the ability to make a decision. And I don't think on any of our committees or outside boards, we suggest we represent the opinions of everybody on this board. We just take the advice.
And I think, and that's a good point, Mr. Lutgen, I've talked to Mr. Lutgen, I've talked to Planning Commission members. I think I didn't know Commissioner Clark was having meetings with you guys, so I hope you're resolving some issues. I hope to resolve some issues process-wise. If anybody says this was done perfect, you got your head someplace.
I
And
don't
it's
think
not in the
anybody's
sand.
saying about
So let's learn from that. It's a teachable moment. And Melissa's here, and only because she's here, I'm gonna use the dish rag story that I've told about Marlene. We're kind of vetting our dish rag stories here.
Right.
And unfortunately, Mike and us haven't figured out a way to do this. If we would have done this back there, it might have been a little bit prettier than here, but it is what it is. At least we don't always agree with everybody. And the dish rag story, I have to say it for those who don't know, is I laid the dish rag to the front of the sink. and it drove Marlene nuts, and she never told me. So 5 years later, she went off on me on something that had nothing to do with anything, but it was the dish rag. Well, what the hell, why didn't you tell me the dish rag 5 years? That's the way I am. Tell me what the deal is, and I can do that. To this day, anywhere I am, that dish rag goes over to the side. I'll never put that to the front again as long as I live. So that's what we're doing here, I hope. We shouldn't do it here, I don't think, but we need to respect each other, and everybody's gonna have a different level of, it wasn't a competition of how many meetings. My point was, I continue to try to make it better. Shelley said she's gonna work with me to make it better. This is only one of 50 issues that I'm dealing with, and I looked to you before Commissioner Notch said, I can't believe you're not getting the calls that I'm getting when it comes to environmental services in the process. Again, we need to work through that, in my opinion. And you said something that might be accurate. You said, well, you have a lot more lakes in your district than I do. That could be it, but I'm getting them, I'm getting a lot of them consistently. And again, if the process is there, and then they have a checklist, from my opinion, are you gonna have music? How many, what are you looking to do? The staff, and I can use him, I don't think he'd mind me using Mr. Lutgen. He's never owned a bar. He's reopening a bar that was Lutgen's bar. I was in Lutgen's bar 30 years ago. He's reopening it, God bless him. But he doesn't know anything about, should he be worried about outdoor music, or should he be worried about this or that or whatever. He's new. And so that's, in my opinion, that's staff's job to get this as tight as you can, to get it from a 10,000 foot view to a 5,000 foot view from planning, then to us. That's why we have a lot of consent agenda. We don't have to vet it. I mean, we would spend easily an hour, 2 hours on one item in planning commission. That was our job. And we were told, prevent obvious land use planning issues. You can have Kurt Fest, you can have 1,000 people in Bruton, they love it. One neighbor doesn't like it. Okay, but you do something like that at Milk and Honey or Sunnybrook, whatever that's called in St. Wendell, you're gonna have problems. You got a sand pit in Belgrade, not one person ever showed up. All the sand pits, anything on the other side of Albany, Painesville, west of that, nobody ever showed up. You put one in Rockville, we had 250 people in a room that night. And so, yep, again, that's land use planning. What can you put where? And we never allowed sandpit operations on Friday, Saturday afternoons, Sundays. We never allowed music or anything from 6, 8 a.m. And so again, there were some things that were done that raised an eyebrow to me, and that led to where we are today. And again, right or wrong, but that's the dish rag story.
And Mr. Chair,
Commissioner Clark.
I have to say, I don't think this is the dish rag story, because we actually have had this conversation before. We have to remember the only authority we have is when at least 3 of us vote for something. We individually have no authority. We have none. We're volunteers, essentially. I mean, we are kind of paid, kind of sort of paid volunteers, and we're there to bring things back. And maybe something to consider is not talking until after all the members have. But we ongoingly have had some challenges in this area, and we can't go talk in the back room, which for everybody here or watching, that's why we're not in the back room. It's called the open meeting law. We have to go ahead and maybe have our family conversations in front of other people, which can be hard to do. There are some things that it might make sense for us to relook at and say, are we checking things out? I don't think we actually have a noise issue. We did go through this with our comprehensive plan update, among other things. That doesn't mean it isn't something that could be addressed. And in fairness, on that other one, because of some concerns, we've talked about this before, Joe, with milk and honey cider, we can't apply what's happening with milk and honey cider and worry about everything else, because that's not what's happening. People are not even thinking about outdoor music, and then it gets suggested by you, and then it gets kind of crazy, right? I mean, it just kind of goes from there. And so I think we have to figure out a way, whether it's a checklist or something else, but together we're the ones doing it. There are state noise standards, there are in-town noise standards. The Planning Commission, or not the Planning Commission, as best I could tell, the Township Board had gotten kind of worked up about this, again, about a different project. So we have to help people kind of sift through what might be a worry or has been a problem somewhere and what really is in front of us. But we cannot be going individually trying to get wins on our projects outside of what our ordinances are or anything else. We want to be helpful, But the role of the planning commission isn't about any of us. It's really about those members and those members, not, I mean, each of us, I guess, could come and start talking during all those, but then we'd be having a board meeting, right? We don't want to do that.
And certainly, Commissioner Clark, I certainly know that when I said the back room, a work session. You know, we've had several work sessions.
I'm good with work
I
session.
didn't mean
think it'd be
anything
helpful.
shady or anything. I meant, not to say shady,
I
so I
didn't
don't
think
want to start that back up again, but let's close it on that.
Okay,
Commissioner
well,
Kostreba,
I do have a
please.
couple things. It's just that, yeah, it's not about us, it's about those neighbors, it's about that township. And they should have their right to have their opinion and their input being heard. Now, if I want to just mention about the Lutgen property, that bar out there in St. Nicholas, I told them I'm excited about it. In fact, I'm waiting for the day it's gonna open. I'm probably gonna get out there. But the point being there is that, again, he asked about music after the fact, the notice sent to the church who's gonna allow them to park there on their parking lot across the road. They were never given a notice about outdoor music. The neighbors were never given a notice about music. And so all of a sudden, you're gonna start having concerts outside. What size are you gonna have them? And so how does that impact the parking lot at the church? Just be upfront. What is it that you're gonna do with your business on the application? That's all we're asking to do, and let the neighbors have input on it.
And he never thought of that.
Right.
And again, that's where, you know, a father telling a son, well, okay, you want to buy this property, have you thought about that you're right beside a chicken barn? Have you, it's a fatherly figure thing to do, or motherly. And in staff's case, are you gonna have music? Oh God, I never thought of that, you know, or whatever. So if we can end this, you sure would make me happy, so let's do that. We're gonna end
Mr.
this
Chair, I
discussion,
think
obviously,
Scott-
Mike,
I think
we need to
Steve's
carry
got
this
one more
on
thing.
somehow, you know, beyond this, because nobody swore yet, so let's get to a point where we can maybe swear if we need to. Commissioner Nudge?
Well, I was just, two things I was gonna mention. So after that planning commission meeting with Sunny Mary Meadows, she reached out to every one of us, and I don't know which, I had never been out there, so I went out there, sat down with her and visited with her. She laid out her plan. She showed me what was going on. Now, that's how I address it, and I don't know if that's being fatherly or not. I was satisfied. She had revisited with the township officials. They, in her opinion, were satisfied. I talked to Glenn Lauer since then. And then when you mentioned that I don't see how I don't have problems in my district, I'll give you two examples. In the last 2 weeks, I had one come in, had an issue with a feedlot and some setbacks and issues like that. Reached out to staff, had the conversations. They looked into it, discussed it twice with them, found out they didn't understand because they lived in town, they moved in the country, didn't understand how the feedlot setbacks and all this work. And I believe that one got resolved. Another one, you know, you brought up, you know, Kurt Fest, had a conversation with Jerry. I think there's a conversation coming up with a point that he wanted to make. And that's how I work it out. I mean, I communicate with staff, we sit down, we meet, and we try and figure out what's reasonable and what's not. I believe Shelley's group is gonna bring that one forward at some point in the future with his suggestion, because it was something that occurred when he was involved directly. So I guess that's how I try and resolve issues.
And Commissioner Notch, I do too. I try to do that too. And the biggest thing is what I keep telling staff is when someone comes in the door, that person, and again, I've seen this for 16 years in planning, will never be back again. It's the first and only time they're gonna build a house on the farm. It's the first time they're gonna, you know, do a feedlot expansion, or the first time they're gonna do an event center. So they don't know. And
When
yeah,
I was in banking, it was the same thing.
yeah, I mean, and you do loans, you can, you know, close your eyes and you can read the levels and everything else.
But
That
you always had
first
to back
loan-
up because they had never done it before.
Correct.
So you
And
always-
so if we do more of that, I think, and then of course, again, listen to people and involve more people, we're gonna have less of what, this is not something that just is happening. There's a problem here and we need to somehow resolve it. So I think we have a motion and a second to approve item E6. It was 25 minutes ago, so I hope my memory is right. Any further discussion? If not, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye, opposed, same sign. Okay, that's approved. Let's go to administration. Thank you, Shelley. Administration.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Yes, you have a number of items related to the vacancy created by Commissioner Lensmeyer's retirement, and the first of which is a proclamation honoring the service of Commissioner Lenzmeyer, and I don't know if you want me to read that or.
Please.
Okay. So I will read the proclamation in honor of Commissioner Lee Lenzmeyer. Whereas Commissioner Lee Lenzmeyer has faithfully and honorably served the residents of Stearns County for more than 34 years, beginning his tenure on the Board of Commissioners in 1991. And whereas Commissioner Lenzmeyer is recognized as the second longest serving county commissioner in the history of the state of Minnesota and the longest serving commissioner in the history of Stearns County. And whereas throughout his decades of service, Commissioner Lenzmeyer demonstrated steadfast leadership, thoughtful decision-making, and a commitment to the well-being of Stearns County residents, contributing to lasting progress in areas such as transportation, land use, planning, infrastructure, agriculture, and economic development. And whereas Commissioner Lenzmeyer's leadership and influence extended far beyond the walls of the boardroom, earning him the respect of colleagues, county staff, and constituents alike for his insight and dedication to public service. And whereas Commissioner Lenzmeyer has made the difficult decision to retire from his role on the Stearns County Board of Commissioners, and whereas the Board of Commissioners, along with the residents of Stearns County, wish to recognize and express their sincere appreciation for Commissioner Lenzmeyer's decades of public service and lasting contributions to the community. Now therefore be it resolved that the Stearns County Board of Commissioners hereby proclaims its deepest gratitude to Commissioner Lee Lenzmeyer for his exemplary service and extends its best wishes to him and his family in the years ahead.
Thank you, Mike. I'm going to move that resolution.
Second.
Commissioner Clark seconds it. I hope Lee is watching. I encouraged him to. He's obviously not online like he has been, but certainly I think we should come up with the top 10 Lee-isms that we've all experienced over our time together. He's been a friend for over 30 years and certainly interesting individual, to say the least. So
Mr.
thank you for the service, Lee. Commissioner Clark.
And I believe that Administrator Williams and others are going to help us figure out a good time that we could be celebrating his retirement and celebrate him. I love the idea of a top 10. I was saying that thinking the resolution made him sound way more like Pablum than he is, right? I mean, talk about somebody who is a character and has character, and he really will be missed.
Mr. Chair, I think we could all have dialogue on Lee, but I can just say that he was predictably unpredictable.
Yeah, very much so.
And if anybody says, I think that horse is dead, I'm going to strangle you, because I've only been here 2 years and I've heard that enough, but he said it on planning all the time too, so whatever. Any further discussion on that? It'll be an honor to sign it on his behalf, on the board's behalf, so. Okay, no discussion. All those in favor of the resolution for former Commissioner Lee Lenzmeyer, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Resolution passed. Next item is the resolution regarding the vacancy.
Yes, Mr. Chair, there's two resolutions under the item F2. The first of which is declaring the vacancy in the office vacated by Commissioner Lenzmeyer. That's District 4. And then the next resolution sets the special election process in motion.
And do you want those done individually?
I think you can do them separately.
Okay.
I believe there's going to be a little discussion about the second one.
So let's have a motion for the vacancy.
So moved.
Okay, Commissioner Clark moves.
Second.
Commissioner Persky seconds to declare the vacancy in District 4. No further discussion. All those in favor say aye.
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 Opposed, same sign. Motion passes. And then the motion to set the dates.
Mr. Chair, if it's okay,
Commissioner Clark.
if Randy could just walk us through that, because odds are there, well, maybe not odds are, there may be a primary, there may not. What the public has been hearing is there's going to be a November election, and what the resolution says is that if there isn't a primary, we'd hold the election on that day in August. I got to say, August in the summer in a very short election is a really painful thing for people to get the word out. It could probably be the lowest voter turnout we've ever had, and the fall one, the school district is also having one, and this district is entirely within the school district. So I had asked some questions about that because that was just different than certainly what's been communicated publicly. So if we could just have Randy give us a little more information.
Thank you, Commissioner Clark. And I think we all had questions, and I think he was just ready to explain it. So,
sure. So the special elections now have to happen on certain times. And as Commissioner Clark mentioned, the next two ones that would be available would be August and November. If there needs to be a primary, it would happen in August and November. If there doesn't need to be a primary, the way the resolution is written right now, it would, the general then for that, if there doesn't need to be a primary, would be in August. If you don't, if you want that to be moved to November, I believe you could do that, and we would just have to eliminate number 2 under the whereas. So that's something you can decide if you like, or we could just take some of that out. And at this point, the auditor can determine the timeline, but you know, I'm certainly interested in what the board would like to do. So.
And I think part of the benefit of living as long as I have and being involved, the last special election, the dates that you're referring to are set by the state.
Yes.
The state says we need to have the elections on common election dates,
yes,
or something like that, which is a primary August 12th, general, and November 4th.
Yes.
Now, the last time, and Commissioner Notch would know that firsthand, was Commissioner Oddie. It was, I think, 5 people and 2,000 people voted. And that was in a higher vote area. So the challenge is going to be, yes, no doubt about it, how many people only are going to vote and how many candidates are going to file. I'd be shocked if there wouldn't be more than 2. The only thing that I would say is if there weren't more than 2, at least that seat could be filled quicker if we did do it in August. That would be my only gut reaction. I don't have a strong opinion on that, but I can't believe there won't be a primary, so that probably will happen anyway. So if whatever we did today, and there wasn't more than 2 people, then you could set that for August 12th if we told you that?
Well,
or would it have
right
to come
now,
back?
all those dates are in the resolution, so if the board would like to have a say on that, then we need to adjust the resolution. Taking out number 2, that would mean if doesn't need to be a primary, the general would be in November, if you eliminate number 2. If you leave number 2 in there, then if there's only 2 filers, then the general would be in August.
Got it. Okay, Commissioner Clark?
Yeah, I'm sorry, the reason why I was asking him those questions is most people look at regular elections that, and we do have the opportunity to do this, that if there isn't a need for a primary, you just don't have the primary, and then you go to the November election. What's different, certainly when Commissioner Oddie's vacancy was done, is this will be in the middle of the summer. The filing period will be done in the beginning of June, and voting would start in the beginning of June. And in the election, the open seat that I was in, there almost wasn't a primary, and that was in a regular time. So I'm not sure that we can make that assumption. The school district did have, I do know both, so Sartell, Sauk Rapids, and then District 742, which is the St. Cloud area, had referenda this spring. The highest of those was 21%. And that's when people were paying attention and school was in session. Like nobody's around in August, and it's just hard. So I think a concern I have is because we've been talking about a November election, in the off chance that there wasn't a primary, and again, there almost wasn't one in the race I was in, I'm a little concerned about people having enough time to do that.
Commissioner Persky?
I've got a couple questions. Randy, then if we were to actually have that election in August, then the school board would be having a primary there as well? And so,
No, the
So
school
then-
board's not having a primary.
okay, then my question would be, what would be the cost of us to do the election in August? Because we would share the cost if we did it in November, is that not true?
We're gonna, yeah, if we did in November, we would share it. Now, there's more precincts for 742 than in this. I don't know if we have a number, Laura. Why don't you come on up?
All things elections, Laura alone.
Yeah,
does.
yeah.
So is there about 13 precincts?
Yep, 13 precincts for
And-
District 4. So if we, Commissioner, Chair and Commissioners, Laura Laudenbach, Director of Elections, if there wasn't a special primary by the off chance that only 2 people file and we waited till November, there wouldn't be, because the county will take on the cost of District 4 election, and then we would share some of the 742, but we'll take on the 13 precincts in Commissioner 4 District for November. If we have the election in August, either way, we're paying the 13 districts. So, so the cost really would be relevant. It would be about the same.
Commissioner Percy.
And the
Oh,
other,
excuse me, if you don't mind. So the school district doesn't have a primary even if 5 people run?
Right.
Okay.
They passed, District 742 passed a resolution to not have a primary.
Got
So
it.
they are just having the November election.
Typically, they may, but because it's a special election, they
Right,
chose not to.
because of a
Got it.
special, yeah.
Commissioner Percy.
and then the other question, I've had a number of people just ask me why we would not be appointing and why wait all the way till November? Could we not appoint and then have somebody fill out that term and then start it? Can you just
So
answer that,
it's-
Randy, for those folks? that have
Yeah,
been asking?
so if it's less than a year when the vacancy occurs, then you can appoint. And obviously, we're more than a year and the vacancy you just determined. So that's why you have to have a special election.
And again, that's state statute.
Yes.
Okay.
And county elections are different than the state elections. A lot of people are getting the state elections confused with the county elections.
And schools
God
are
bless the
different than
state.
us too,
State
yes.
knows better on everything, so we gotta follow the state.
And Mr. Chair, just really
Commissioner
quickly,
Clark.
Same with school board and city councils, because both the city council, St. Cloud City Council and the District 742 were able to appoint, and their statute's just different than our statute.
Do you have a recommendation, Randy, Laura?
You know, I don't know that we really care. It's just if there is only 2
Randy,
filers, would
you care. I know you care, and I know you have ways, so let's not.
No, I actually, you know, it's just when do you want the person seated? If you only had 2 filers, you could have the person in here in August, right? And they do take office probably the next board meeting after the election. So by the middle, end of August, you could have a commissioner here. If you wait till November, obviously, you're in mid to late November.
Is there a way to speed that up where they could be seated right away, like even if we had to have a special meeting? Because the seat's been open for so long, even if they get elected on November 4th, if we could do it November 5th, I think I think that district's been,
Right, yeah, they just have to
Deserves
file
it.
some paperwork, they have to be sworn in, and we can do that pretty quick. Normally, we'd like to do a little thing at the board meeting, but we can look into that.
and we could do that at the next formal board meeting, but just do what we need to do to get that person seated as quickly, in my opinion, as we can, because
We certainly can look at
the
that.
vacancy is certainly there. So again, that's 2.5 months. If there are only 2 people and we do it on November 4th, my only gut reaction is, again, I don't have a strong opinion, but that's 2.5 months longer that district will go unrepresented. That's my only concern, I guess.
And that's why number 2 is there.
Yeah. So that would be my only point. Commissioner Notch?
You know, I guess I don't have a preference either way, because I feel all citizens of the county reach out to all of us regardless of a line of a district. So, and I would encourage anyone in that District 4 to reach out to any of us, because we do represent the whole county, even though we have districts. So I don't have a strong opinion either way.
Okay.
And Mr. Chair?
Commissioner Clark?
Yeah, and I only had the last 24 hours to actually think about this, because I didn't even know whether it was an option or not. I would love it if somebody was on 2.5 months earlier. I'm not sure, since we had a whole long conversation about process, that it's giving people much of a chance to actually go campaign if we do it this other way. Now, having said that, I suspect there will be an effort to make sure there's a primary if we have that in there. So it may be that we're just creating a primary as opposed to not necessarily needing to have a primary, but.
So, I guess we need a motion. And again, remind me the way you have it drafted right now.
So the way we have it drafted right now, if there does not need to be a primary, the general would be on August 12th.
Okay.
If you want to have, if a primary is not needed and you want the general on November, then we need to remove number 2.
So just to get things moving here, I'm going to move that we approve what you drafted, the resolution on what you just said. Is there a
I'll second for
Okay.
clarification.
Second for Commissioner Percy.
Yeah, and so Randy, that means we can go ahead, if there's less than 3, then we can go ahead and do it in August.
Yes.
Okay.
And again, I don't have a strong feeling other than that 2.5 months where the district would be represented, but to keep this moving, so any discussion on that motion?
I'm going
Commissioner
to
Clark?
vote against it because I do think it's important that people have more than 3 weeks not in the middle of summer to campaign. So I guess I have a bit more of a stronger feeling that way, but again, I do believe there will be a primary. I mean, we're really just talking about an insurance policy here. The flip side is if there's only 2 people and we're saying November, then we don't have to have a primary because they wouldn't need it, so we'd save some money there, but that's okay.
Okay, Commissioner Persky?
Just general clarification, will there only be 3 weeks? I don't understand.
The voting would start on June 27th. So early voting starts June 27th with the final day being in August. And those are really hard months to go ahead and do a campaign. So there are people who are just right now considering whether or not they want to even run. They only just found about it, which happens. The difference between winter and some other times, though, is it's summer. Summer in Minnesota, people don't pay attention.
When would the filing close?
Commissioner Persky?
Filings close June 3rd, I believe, right?
And
May
then the
20th.
withdrawals
Clark.
June 5th.
Okay, so
Commissioner Persky?
so then if there were 2 people, they could start campaigning at that time, could they not?
Right.
Yeah,
Well,
Well,
if
they
they're
can start
smart.
campaigning now.
Yeah, I was gonna say, if they're smart, they're campaigning now.
yeah.
Commissioner Notch got to go through Thanksgiving and Christmas and New Year's.
And Mr. Chair, I won my Senate seat in a special election that was it was Christmas. That's when it was. So
And look at what happens when that happens.
Yeah, I won, but people shouldn't have been thinking about it over Christmas. So anyways, that's the reason why I will look forward to whatever happens. And I think there's probably a couple people who are considering running that would love a really short one because they have better name recognition than some other people. But, we'll see what happens.
Okay,
I have no horse.
so oh God, am I
And it's
glad
live.
you only said the horse
I
and
know,
that's.
I did it on
yeah,
purpose.
okay,
Oh,
yeah.
I'm not promising I'm never
Oh,
using the
God,
horse is
okay,
dead. I
well,
think Lee will be with us
yeah.
for decades.
So the motion is to follow the resolution that's drafted with a August 12th, November 4th election date, no matter if it's a primary. If it's not a primary for August 12th, then would be the general election. Got it, okay? No further discussion. All those in favor of that motion say aye.
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 Opposed, same sign.
Nay.
Motion passes. You want to roll?
Yeah. Commissioner Clark,
Nay.
Commissioner Persky,
Aye.
Commissioner Notch. Aye. Commissioner Bertram.
Aye.
Passes 3-1.
Okay.
And Mr. Chair, I really am
Commissioner
fine
Clark.
with this. I just hope there's a primary for people's sake.
Okay, the next item is the filling of Lee's committee appointments. We all suggested, at least we should have, I assume we did, what committees we would be willing to take on until a commissioner is seated. And then, of course, when the commissioner is seated, I assume we're gonna review all of our committee appointments to see which ones we'd be willing to give up or whatever. That'll be worked out then.
Yes, Mr. Chair, whatever you choose to do here will go until the end of the year, at which time then you rearrange, and some might stay the same and some may not, but you do that annually. And this year, I suspect we'll do that in late November, early
So
December.
about the same time a
Yeah, so
commissioner
we
would
can
be
start the
seated.
new year with everybody in their new places.
Okay, so did you do some kind of a,
Well,
Spreadsheet?
we did not get a response from everybody, but if the back room could let me put my
It's
screen
there.
up. There it is.
Yeah.
Those are the committees that Commissioner Lenzmeyer was appointed to.
And
We wouldn't have to take care of all of these today, but certainly I think it would behoove us to do those that he was not the alternate on.
well, I think we should do it today because like Railroad Authority met this morning already and these committees continue to meet. Plus Lee wasn't at a lot of these other meetings anyway, so that's been going on for a while. So I think we should do them today if we can.
And
And
Mr.
mine-
Chair, real
Yes,
quick.
Commissioner Clark.
It's just for the public that some of Commissioner Lenzmeyer's, his previous ones we've already absorbed. And then at least one thing on there, the Human Services Board, that's us. So it's not really, we're not going to add ourselves to that. So there's a couple like that or a couple that never meet that a couple of us are already on.
So I don't know, I think if somebody could do maybe just quick notes or whatever on what everybody's seeing. I shared with you, Council of Aging would be my number one choice that I'd be willing to fill. Regional Rail Authority would be number 2. APO would be number 3. That's my 3 offers. I mean, again, I'm helping out. That's all I'm trying to do. I don't have a strong feeling on this either. Commissioner Clark?
And the 2 I said was alternate, it's just the alternate. Most of those are alternates for the APO. Joe already calls me that, I mean, somebody from, frankly, from St. Cloud probably should be on this at some point, but, and back up. So back up that one, and then I am willing to do the law library. It doesn't meet very often, but if somebody else wants to do it, that's fine too.
Mr. Chair,
Commissioner Persky?
I'll tell you what, I have no preference as far as if there's something that needs to be filled, I'll fill it. Although you wanted to take the one on aging, I think I'm the senior member now on the board. But,
If Commissioner Persky's willing to do anything, I think, Kevin, don't we need a mopper? I think we need a floor sweeper, don't we, Kevin? He said he's willing to do anything, and don't we need a floor sweeper in the afternoons? Yep. Commissioner Notch?
You know, I guess I'm the alternate on the Tri-County Solid Waste, so I can become, you know, the member. And then I could do the Wetland Appeals Panel too as an alternate.
Okay, I'm hearing, I don't hear a lot of duplicatives, so that should help. Nobody said regional, well, Terrell and Steve are already on the regional rail, and if you don't care, then if everybody, we're gonna do this in one motion, but, so regional rail, and then Council on Aging, if you wanna be on it, Senior Persky?
okay.
Okay, Senior Persky's gonna do that one.
And Mr. Chair, I think he's talking about age now, right?
That's what he
He's the
said.
senior member.
There was a duplication on the APO, I think both Commissioner Clark and Commissioner Bertram.
So she is, are you
And that's
the
a-
alternate?
So what happened
No,
when I
you're
first
on.
came on, I was supposed to, I had switched with Commissioner Mergen, I was supposed to be on it, and then after we appointed me, then Joe said, oh, they're shrinking it, so we only had one member after all, so Lee was the alternate, and I was kind of the alternate. So I'm gone when Joe couldn't be there because Lee couldn't go. But Joe's almost always there.
So that sounds like you can just let any other board member know
Sure.
when you're not gonna be there? So do
But I
we
would
need
like
to fill
to, I
that?
would like
Yeah.
to serve as the alternate.
Okay.
That was my first one.
Then let's give it to Terrell then.
Mr. Chair,
if that's okay.
that just, well, it just said St. Cloud is part of the APO.
It is,
Yeah,
that's
so-
why, I mean, that's the reason.
And people from District 5 and 3 drive on roads that are in the St. Cloud district, so
Yes,
They
just
do.
like that's why I get to vote on levies from District 1 for rural roads, right?
there you go. Now we know comparisons.
Yep, exactly.
Anything else? What else we got?
I can do the noxious weed as an alternate too.
And that one definitely never meets.
Ooh.
Yeah.
I was
You
gonna,
know
Hasn't
which
been
ones to
since I've
pick,
been
Steve.
on.
He knows how to pick them.
I was gonna arm wrestle.
Give him one that never meets.
You
That's the
have
one he
a
wants.
Yeah,
emergency,
we've got 3 of them that never.
Emergency Services Board, which is the alternate.
Right, and I serve on
You're
that,
serving.
and I never miss. The airport zoning, that never meets, does it?
No.
Actually,
Steve, that'd
that,
be another one for you then.
yeah.
Steve will take that one too.
I mean, I could be the alternate on Emergency Services Board. I was.
Which would make
alternate
sense. You were on it.
Sure.
when I switched.
Why don't you do that?
It doesn't matter.
Does anybody else want to do law library? Otherwise, I'm willing to do
It looks like you're the one.
it. Okay.
Okay, so I'm hearing Commissioner Notch's Tri-County Solid Waste, the Wetland Appeals Panel, Noxious Weed, Emergency Services, Commissioner Clark, APO,
Oh,
Law
you forgot
Library.
airport zoning.
Excuse me?
Airport zoning, you forgot.
Oh, and Commissioner Bertram, Railroad Authority, Commissioner Persky, Council on Aging. And some of these other ones here, like rural counties, that's
Everybody.
everybody anyway. So I think that pretty well covers us.
Okay. No, that didn't hurt.
No,
Okay, somebody want to make a motion?
So moved.
Second.
Commissioner Notch moves that we approve those appointments. Commissioner Clark seconds it. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion passes. So the applicants for the Board of Adjustment is
Yes,
next.
Mr.
We
Chair.
had 9 applicants, which was really good to see. All good applicants, or a lot, most of them were good. You want to give
and
that
if
report?
you want to have a discussion about this, since there's no finalists declared, you can you have a conversation using letters, and you were sent those letters, and some of some of your rankings previously, so the discussion is yours, I guess.
You sent the email yesterday afternoon to all of us. We all got that clear. The clear favorite, obviously, was candidate H. So I'm going to move that we appoint candidate H for that at-large
And Mr. Chair,
Board of
certainly-
Adjustment
certainly could have one
position.
of
Can
us
we
go
get a
ahead and do
second?
You could certainly have one of us do the motion.
Oh, I can do it too, I think.
Second.
Usually
Can the
don't.
chair make motions?
We
Yep,
just
the
don't
chair
do
can
it
make
all
the
that
motion.
often.
I made the motion, Commissioner Notch made the second. Any discussion?
I think it was a pretty strong representation to support that person.
Yep.
Yeah,
Okay.
definitely.
So if there's no further discussion on that, then all those in favor of appointing candidate H to the Board of Adjustment, and then I have a question after we do this, but all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign.
Mr. Chair, candidate H is John Wicker of Kimball, so we can make the name public, obviously, now.
Sure. And then I assume Shelley will do immediate appointment, get them caught up to speed, because sometimes there seems to be a little bit of a delay. I mean, these board members come into these first meetings and they're kind of overwhelmed. I went through the orientation after the first meeting. I mean, if you can get a hold of him and have a conversation with him, I think that would be helpful. And then Zooming seems to be, I'm hearing different things. Members are told they can't Zoom, and I've been told they can Zoom, both on planning and Board of Adjustment. So I think we should clarify that, because these people are all people that are making things happen. So sometimes being at a meeting sometimes is a conflict, but they could participate in the meeting. So, but I've been told that they can Zoom. So I think we should clarify that and then share that with the members, that they know they can participate. Like even the last planning, 2 members were short. But when you have 7 members, 2 are short, that kind of crimps it, in my opinion. I think we really need to impress upon the candidates and now the appointments, you really need to be at these meetings. It's important that you're at the meetings. So whatever we can do to quickly get that Board of Adjustment meets when?
Thursday.
This Thursday? Oh, you won't get a hold of him before Thursday?
It'll be for the next meeting.
Oh, he won't be seated at this meeting?
Well, he could
If
be,
we
I
can-
guess, but I don't know his schedule.
Right, if he can make it or not, but he could attend the first meeting.
Absolutely.
So somebody needs to let him know that.
Already emailing now.
Perfect, okay?
Mr. Chair, I just want to respond to something you said about attendance. I definitely feel the same way, that, attendance is important on these. And, people have busy schedules, but, if you can't make, what do I want to say, 75% of those meetings, then your voice isn't being heard and your area is not being represented. And when we like to have good people, we had a high interest in this last one, but we do need the participation. So we should be mindful. We've had some absentees at the Planning Commission that it doesn't necessarily help when sometimes you have a quorum of 4, but that you got 3 absentees that could definitely change the vote on an issue. So.
And then when we do the applicant, when we go through the application, it's important that the people understand that we all get questions from people that want to apply for a committee. And that's the first thing I tell them is, if you're gonna do it, do it. I mean, don't do it, and Dan Ray, who served on the Board of Adjustment, to his credit, did a great job. But he said during his years at Cold Spring, he missed so many of his kids' events. He said, I'm not missing my grandkids' events, and a lot of them were on Thursday nights. And that's why so to his credit, he missed a meeting or 2 and he felt bad about it. And he said, I don't want to do this to the board. So that's to his credit. But again, when you do talk to John, and I'll talk to John, we all can talk to John, just tell him it's really important that you participate.
Mr. Chair, I got another piece of opinion here, and that is that the seriousness of the Planning Commission and the Board of Adjustment is the what do I want to say? The quality and the intent of our ordinances. We don't take these ordinances lightly. And oftentimes you have a person that comes in and has done something on their property, but maybe they did it because, well, we get too much of, let me say, the after the fact. They know that they under the ordinance, they wouldn't be able to do what they want to do. But then they come in and they say, well, I got this done. Here's an after the fact, and they pay the additional $500 or whatever it is. But that should not be the normal method of operation that we should be using. I think if we've got the ordinances on the books, We should hold people accountable for what they're doing. Likewise, the contractors. And we've got a number of contractors that have done things without a permit. Well, if you're a licensed contractor, you know darn well what you need a permit for and what you don't. And the excuse that says, well, you know what, I thought the owner had a permit, and the owner says, no, well, I thought the contractor had. Well, I'll tell you what, they should be held accountable, because when somebody's got the permit, they can take a picture of it on their cell phone and send it to the other, and then in case is closed, then the permit is there. But we've had a few things, and you know, all of us want to be kind souls and say, you know, it's too bad you did it that way. You know, I'd like you to experience that. But by the same token, there are those people that play by the rules, and they maybe build smaller. They leave all the trees. They don't extend the beach. They play by the rules. But then those that sometimes that break the rules just say, well, I wonder if I'll get by until my neighbor turns me in.
And I think what I've seen is that's gone down dramatically of the people that just do it and then want to pay the penalty. I think that's gone down to less than 20%. 16 years ago, it was probably 80%. Yeah. So that has changed. And I agree with you. Most of it, from what I hear, is they just didn't know. I mean, again, the most involved project I was on, I mean, I asked exactly, what can I do? What can I do? You know, whatever. And I didn't have a contract. Well, I had a contractor, but it was like a subcontractor. But I agree with you on that. The contract, I always tell people, have the contractor pull the permit, because then if they don't do the work right, we can pull the license. Otherwise, if the landowner pulls the permit, you can't go back at the contractor because the contractor didn't take the permit. But anyway, the permit needs to be displayed. It's pretty straight up. But for anybody to say, well, I didn't know if he had one, well, the first question contractors should be asking is, do you have a permit? Have we talked to somebody? Okay, so where are we at?
Break. Quick break.
Any other discussion? Okay, so we're gonna break and go into closed session so we can do this both at the same time.
Yeah, just so the public knows, you're gonna take a break, but when we come back, we're gonna be in closed session to discuss the purchase of properties.
Which again is common practice.
You are certainly authorized by section 13D.05 subdivision 3 of Minnesota statute when you're considering the purchases of property to do that in closed session.
And that's to go to closed session, not to go to the bathroom.
Right.
Got it. Just wanted to be clear.
You should do the bathroom kind of in private, though.
Okay. We're breaking, going into closed session.
After we go to the
Reconvene the board meeting. Next item would be issues by commissioners. Commissioner Notch.
Don't have many issues. I did notice that the municipal league meeting is coming up on May 20th, I think I've seen. Obviously, I won't be able to attend because that's also the Sacred Watershed meeting night, but it appeared like the last meeting, maybe you had a few more municipalities. I was looking
The
at
newer
those.
members, I thought.
Okay.
Some newly
I'm
elected.
hoping that picks up. It would sure be nice if, that would pick up.
And I did share with Stacy, and I told her that I would help her, but I'd say there's at least 30 old names on there. The list is not current. I mean, Dave Kleiss was on there, and St. Joe Mayor, they need to, and she's recognized that, they need to work on that a little bit, but get the list better. And then plus, they were sending the invitation to the administrators or clerks, and oftentimes they didn't share it with the council, that kind of thing. So, but, I mean, back in the day, shoot, we'd be here, there'd be 100 people here. There was 50, 75 people at a municipal league meeting. So,
Which would be good.
But of course, that's everything. That's
Right.
all meetings.
Oh, yeah.
Commissioner Persky.
Mike, we had discussed earlier about stipends for committees, and we talked about possibility of increasing the ones, especially for Board of Adjustment and Planning Commission, just looking at because of the amount of time they spend on the visits. I think we were going to review that. Were we going to get back?
Mr. Chair, Commissioner Persky, we typically do that annually when we set up your new governments for the year. Obviously, we can do it any time, but we will for sure bring it back at that time unless the board directs me differently.
Oh, but I think we
Commissioner
brought it up
Persky.
in December, and then we were going to change, at the end of the first quarter, we were going to,
Oh,
yes.
okay.
Okay.
Maybe I
We were
missed
gonna-
something there.
Yeah, we were going to make a change at the quarter, so.
And maybe we should, Commissioner Persky, we should talk about that at some point. The thing that I would be open to is like, if we did the $50 per diem for the site visits. They're getting paid mileage, but not the site visits. Well, sometimes if you look, there's 7 agenda items, and most members are very good about visiting the site, which is critical. And maybe not do it $100 for that, but at least $50 to do something for the site visits. Because the way it is right now, they get $100 for the meetings plus mileage, and that's it. Mileage for the site visits and mileage for the meeting, but per diem, because I mean, some of those site visits, days back when I did them, I mean, they were 3 hours. One was in Sauk
absolutely.
Center and one was in Kimball. So just
I must
something
have
to
talked
think
about
about.
this when I wasn't here.
Yeah.
This is all
Are you
news to me.
talking like each site they go to? is
No. Just for the
Just
day.
for the day.
I mean, most
I was
people,
gonna say,
when they've done it, the way I see it, and that's what I did it, I picked the day and I did them all.
Yeah.
Because that's just the way.
So the focus is Board of Adjustment and Planning Commission, is that what I'm hearing?
Correct.
Those two?
Right.
And I thought I read something
Commissioner
that said
Clark.
$100 for the meetings and then $50 for something else, so we might want to look. I don't know, because I was going to ask the question at some point, what were the $50 for? So maybe it's worth, Shelley knows, Mr. Chair.
And of course, especially on those two, the site visits are so important because then you get an idea of what it looks like, because on paper, it says one thing, but when you're actually there physically, you get to see it.
Well, my favorite one was the Jim Dahl from St. Stephen. There was something that the church wanted to get built in Padua. And he was against it, and nobody really knew why. And he said, there should not be a church like this in Padua. And I said, I said, were you there? No, he didn't go there. I said, it's Padua. I mean, so the next planning commission meeting we had at the Padua pub, I said, we're gonna bring you out there so you know what Western Stearns County looks like. Shelley?
Mr. Chair, the $50 is for a training day.
Oh,
So
training.
They have a training opportunity. Like we have sent people to, they attend that meeting. Or if we have specific training where they come in to do work, like their iPads and some of those kinds of things where we're doing that, or legal training, $50 for those meetings.
So I don't know if you were in the room, Shelley, I suggested that one thing I'd be open to is for the site visits to do $50, a one-time $50 to do the site visits.
Like a
Something to
once a
think
month.
about. So they'd get the $100 for the meeting, $50 one-time fee to do all the sites, just a thought.
Right, and Mr. Chair, if, I was really not prepared for this conversation today, but that's okay. We can have that conversation now, or we can also
No.
have it with the fee schedule.
We'll do it.
Because we've got a lot of the fee schedule stuff that
Good
we're
idea.
working through,
Yeah.
and financial guarantees and lots of things. that are coming up.
Because a fee schedule, sometimes the applicant has to pay for the meeting. So I think that would be appropriate to do it at the same time.
Okay, Shelley, while you're up here, you know, because of the compensation that we're giving them, and both for the meetings and for those site visits, you know, where are we with the after the fact application? Have we changed the amount on that?
No, we haven't changed the application. We have, it depends on the situation that we're dealing with. Most of the time we have after the facts. We don't remember if we have a different fee for after the fact. It's typically when we do the construction permit that we have the after the fact, and then based on where they are in the process and how much compliance we've gotten with them on their first notice, second notice, third notice with after the fact. I don't know on conditional use permits if I have an after the fact variant, a different fee for after the fact.
That would make some sense, because it would be a discouragement not to get it for. So that when you do your fees.
I will take a look at the after. I know we do for construction site permits. I don't remember the variances and CUPs. I will look into that for that purpose as well with fee schedule discussion.
Commissioner Clark?
You know, it sometimes happens when one makes a list but doesn't write it down. I know there's a third thing, but it probably is not that important.
How well I ran the meeting this morning with that?
You did a great job,
Oh,
but
good.
that wasn't it.
That wasn't it? Oh, shucks.
No, it was that was the unsaid one. Sorry.
Okay.
So yes, so to all people out there, again, we're having a special election. If you've ever been interested in what the county does, you can reach out to any of us. And I know that there are people reaching out right now, and you better get moving. Another thing is the Office of the Older Americans Act. There's been rescissions there too from the feds. So we're starting to see other partners that are experiencing either temporary or ongoing cuts. Hopefully they're not going to be permanent, but for example, food meals, it's something that's being impacted. And so we may start hearing that individually. Want to encourage people to reach out. Just like, again, I think my broken record thing is about the legislature and cost shifting to counties in the mandatory services they're talking about really will mean property tax increases. So I know we've all been talking to folks, but for people who might be worried about both family members who maybe have disabilities and want to make sure there's services, and people worried about their property taxes, please be talking to legislators. And yeah, nice job running the meeting, but facilitating it. But I might get my third thing by the time you're done.
You bet. Three things, and I wrote mine down. So Justice Center open houses, thank you to everybody that came. I think they were, quite frankly, well attended, and you know, for the most part, certainly a variety of thoughts and opinions. And and then there's been several discussions about remote work and that whole issue, and Mike said that on June 3rd, he will have information that he can bring to the board. And I asked him to share, as a reminder, that discussion happened previous, I think, to me being on the board. If he could share that with everybody so we can kind of refamiliarize ourselves with that discussion. And last but most important is Happy Mother's Day to all the mothers out there, including my mother who's in heaven, and my, of course, wife. And so to all mothers, Happy Mother's Day.
Mr. Chair, I did think of my third thing.
Yes.
Although I will take that as a Happy Mother's Day to me.
Yes, yeah.
So thank you. Actually, because it's come up a number of times by one particular person about our sales tax question, we basically had to ask the question the way the legislature and the state told us to. We weren't given really any flexibility, and I don't know, Mr. Chair, if Randy can have 30 seconds just to reinforce that, because the person who keeps coming in and saying this, including in our engagement sessions, is just wrong about it. We did what we were told we needed to do.
Yeah, you know, we used an attorney. We had a scripted similar to the legislation that was passed. You know, I had a couple questions, say, well, why don't you say if it doesn't pass, it's going to be paid by property tax? Well, you can't really threaten voters, right? You have to just try to inform them this is what you're voting on.
Did they do away with that?
Certainly, you know, with the question, there was a lot of information sessions and such we did to inform the public. So I guess I'm not sure all the different questions you heard, but no, this was not a random thing. This was, you know, a way you had to ask the question was pretty specific according to the law.
And Mr. Chair, just really
Commissioner
quickly with
Clark.
that, you know, people can have their different opinions, but there was no fraud committed on anybody. We've been very transparent. We've had lots of conversations, and the legislature and the DOC, everybody told us that we needed to have the legislation set up this way, and they really didn't want us doing it the other way, and it would have been great to have done it, but that wasn't really an option given to us. And so we made sure we were telling people, though, right? I mean, it's everywhere. So if anybody has any questions, they can certainly feel free to reach out to any one of us.
Okay.
That's it.
Commissioner
One quick thing I forgot to mention. So last Friday, the city of Melrose had the dedication of the bridge on County Road 13, which was a project between city of Melrose and the county. They named it the Edwin Clark Bridge after the founding father of Melrose. So they had a unveiling. So if you go through Melrose, you'll see this nice plaque with Edwin Clark's little history on there. So,
And the highway's gone now, but I think it was $581,000 that we contributed to that. So I hope our name's on there too. Did you know anything about Clark before that? You went to school in Melrose, I did.
even they were surprised because
Never knew
somebody
it.
dug into it and said,
Yep.
"Oh, wait a minute, this is who was the founding father."
Never knew it. Okay, anything else for the good of the order?
Not a relation?
I don't think so, but I'm willing to take it.
Okay.
Just like Virginia Clark, that Tech Field's named after, I take her too, even though no relation.
Let's just say it is.
Okay.
Okay, meeting adjourned.
Yeah.